Hey guys, this is Dustin Decroo with Bighorn Outfitters, and this week on Smart Tips and Tricks, we're talking about calling whitetails. All right, so when I'm calling whitetails, there's three types of calls that I primarily use. One would be a type of grunt, a snort wheeze, and then using rattling antlers. So each of those calls has its own specific purpose. The ones I use mainly would be a tending grunt and a challenge grunt. An attending grunt is basically a buck when he's close to a doe saying, hey, I'm here when you're ready and I'm gonna follow you around until you're ready. And so a attending grunt would sound something like this. So it's a series of short grunts, and basically that's the one that he's communicating with the doe. A lot of times what that will do is other bucks will hear that and they'll know that that buck is following a doe or with a doe. And that's why it works to call bucks to your stand. The second type of grunt that I would use is a challenge grunt. And a lot of times this is a call, you got a buck, out, maybe say he's 70 or 80 yards and you don't have anything there for him to come to. And I've used this a lot, even in places where you can be seen. The western states are a little bit more forgiving with calling when deer can see where you're at. But a challenge grunt would sound something like this. There's a little bit of inflection at the end, kind of adding some intensity to that call. So if you have a buck out there kind of cruising around and you want to say, hey, I got a buck over here that thinks he's tougher than you are, then use a challenge grunt. The snort wheeze call it's probably the one I use the least. But a lot of times, if you have a big deer, a big dominant deer in an area that knows that he's in charge, a lot of times a snort wheeze call will bring that deer closer. You can buy calls, grunt calls that have a snort wheeze tube on top of them. I don't have one with me today, but a snort wheeze call is gonna sound something like this. So it's a long nasally call, and that's the most aggressive call that you can make while you're calling whitetails. So the last one that I would use, or that I use, is a good old set of rattling antlers. And I use this, we're in Wyoming, Montana. I use this more out here than I do grunts because this sound carries farther and we're in open country. But basically all you're gonna do is you're gonna get a couple set of horns. I like to cut off the brow tines so that you don't stab yourself when you're rattling your antlers. And you don't have to crash them together, but you do one kind of initial and then rattle these together. Okay, so what you don't want to do is you're trying to imitate bucks actually fighting. So what you don't want to do is this, okay? That's not how deer fight. Initially, they come together and then they rattle around, they get locked up, they twist. And so what I like to do is I try to do, 10, 15 seconds, take a small break, and then go back into it. And I'll do that 2 or 3 times, just kind of whatever I'm feeling. So a full series would look something like this. And then hang them up and pick up your bow. So that's a few of the calling techniques that I use in the field. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight to what those calls mean and when to use them. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Hopefully that this information can help you in the woods at your own hunt.